A very common argument used against Jews online is the alleged historical fact that Jews, quote, have been expelled from 109 countries, end quote, with a lot of people sarcastically making comments such as, kicked out of 109 countries and it isn't their fault. Wikipedia, the Anti-Defamation League, however, have responded to this claim, stating that, supposedly, this alleged fact is a, quote, fabricated number, end quote, most likely made up by some random website in the past, and that this trope has no historical basis. Despite the supposed debunking, however, it seems that many people still believe in the idea that Jewish people were expelled from 109 countries throughout history. Any video on YouTube that challenges this narrative garners more negative attention than positive attention. Take, for example, this video on screen right now, entitled, Why Have Jews Been Kicked Out of So Many Countries? In this video, the seemingly Jewish Christian YouTuber, Line of Fire, challenges this narrative, and at the end, reaches this conclusion.
So the main reason Jews have been expelled from so many countries is because they would not convert to the dominant religion.
Obviously, the video was met with a lot of hatred, receiving only around a 1/3 like to dislike ratio. It seems that, at least online, the idea that Jews were kicked out of 109 countries due to their own supposed inferiority is the mainstream accepted narrative, and that anybody who challenges this narrative will undoubtedly be subjected to an extreme amount of hate and backlash. In this series, I would like to examine the history of Jewish expulsions and exoduses throughout history, to see whether or not this backlash is deserved, or whether or not the idea that Jews were kicked from 109 countries due to their own supposed inferiority has any actual historical basis. To do so, I will be using the Wikipedia article, Expulsions and Exoduses of Jews. And before I get any crybaby commenters whining about, but Wikipedia is biased and left-wing, and they support Jews because of that, I would like to remind the viewers that Wikipedia also defines Zionism, the movement of Jews to occupy land in modern-day Israel, as, quote, an ethno-cultural nationalist movement that emerged in Europe in the late 19th century, end quote, clearly using those same left-wing buzz terms to paint Jewish occupation of Israel/Palestine in a bad light. Assyrian captivity. 733 BCE. Tiglath-Pileser III, king of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, sacked the northern kingdom of biblical Israel and annexed the territory of the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh in Gilead. People from these tribes were taken captive and resettled in the region of the Khabur River in Hala, Habor, Hara, and Gozan. This is cited from 1 Chronicles 5:26. Tiglath-Pileser also captured the territory of Naphtali and the city of Genoa in Ephraim, and an Assyrian governor was placed over the region of Naphtali. According to 2 Kings 15:29, the population of Naphtali was deported to Assyria. So, real quickly, I just want to make a quick note of the fact that within that first paragraph were two citations from the Bible. I just want to point out the fact that the reason why this most likely is because to a lot of scholars, even if Christianity didn't occur, it is confirmed that a lot of events that occurred within the Bible probably were true, and that the Bible probably does record history to a pretty decent extent, a lot of the time. These citations most likely come from the fact that, to a lot of scholars, many of the events in the Bible were true, even if they don't believe in Christianity or Judaism. Anyway, continuing on. 722 BCE. In 722 BCE, Samaria, the capital city of the northern kingdom of biblical Israel, was taken by Sargon II, who resettled the Israelites in Ala, Abor, and Gozan in the cities of Media, cited from 2 Kings 18:11 through 12. Sargon recorded the capture of that city thus: Samaria I captured, 27,280 men who dwelt in it I carried away into Assyria. Some people of the northern tribes were spared, and it has been suggested that many also fled south to Jerusalem. Babylonian captivity. 597 BCE. In 598 BCE, Nebuchadnezzar II of the Neo-Babylonian Empire besieged Jerusalem, then capital of the southern kingdom of Judah. The city fell after a 3-month siege, and the new king Jeconiah, who was either 8 or 18, his court and other prominent citizens, including the prophet Ezekiel and craftsmen, were deported to Babylon. Joachim's uncle, Zedekiah, was appointed king in his place. 587 BCE. When Zedekiah revolted against Babylonian rule, Nebuchadnezzar responded by invading Judah, cited from 2 Kings 25:1, In December 589 BCE, Nebuchadnezzar began another siege of Jerusalem. During the siege, many Jews fled to surrounding Moab, Ammon, Edom, and other countries to seek refuge. The city eventually fell after a 30-month siege, and the Babylonian general Nebuzaradan was sent to complete its destruction. The city was plundered, and Solomon's temple was destroyed. Most of the members of the elite class were taken into captivity in Babylon. The city was razed. Only a few people were permitted to remain and tend to the land, cited from Jeremiah 52:16. In 537 BCE, Cyrus the Great, the founding king of the Achaemenid Persian Empire, allowed the Jews to return to Judah and rebuild the temple. 139 BCE. Expulsion from the city of Rome under the accusation of aggressive proselytizing among the Romans. Now let's look at the definition of proselytizing. Converting to Judaism is the process by which non-Jews adopt the Jewish religion and become members of the Jewish ethno-religious community. It thus resembles both conversion to other religions and naturalization. So, I think that connecting the dots here, we can guess that the reason why Jews were expelled from Rome in 139 BC was because there were accusations that other people were either converting to Judaism or that Jews were aggressively, quote unquote, trying to get other people to convert to Judaism. Now remember, this is before the advent of Christianity, meaning that this was basically what Christians do now. So I don't want to hear any Christians in the comments being like, well, see, this proves that Jews are bad because they were trying to convert all these people to Judaism. It's like, okay, back then, Jews are what you would have been. So, I mean, technically speaking, this is just what Christians technically still do today. Christians could have been kicked if they existed back then for the same reason. Year 19. Jews were expelled from the city of Rome by Emperor Tiberius, along with practitioners of the Egyptian religion, specifically the ancient Egyptian religion. So, a reason why is not stated, which in my opinion is definitely suspicious. Um, However, an important thing to look at here is the fact that Jews were not the only ones expelled. People who practiced the ancient Egyptian religion were expelled with them. So this would be the equivalent of today if in a Muslim country, if all practitioners of religions other than Islam were kicked out. So it wouldn't just be Jews getting kicked out. They'd also be kicking out Christians, Hindus, in this hypothetical example. So it doesn't look like Jews were kicked out for being Jews. It looks like they were kicked out for being members of a supposedly wrong religion because of the fact that believers of the ancient Egyptian religion were kicked out along with them. Now, perhaps they were kicked for a separate reason. It doesn't say. However, this is historically recorded in the article, supposedly, and I'll just leave it up to you guys to decide what to assume for that. Year 38. Jews were expelled from one of their quarters in the city of Alexandria in Egypt under the instigation of Aulus Avilius Flaccus, who appeared to be a Roman equis who was appointed to praefectus or governor of Roman Egypt from 33 CE to 38. His rule coincided with the riots against Alexandria's Jewish population at 38. Alright. Years 41 through 53. This is when Claudius's expulsion of Jews from Rome occurred. Year 73. The Jewish defeat in the First Jewish-Roman War that lasted between 66 and 73 CE resulted in significant loss of life from battle, famine, and disease, extensive city destruction, including Jerusalem, and widespread forced displacement. Many Jews were enslaved or sent into forced labor in locations such as Egypt and the Isthmus of Corinth, while others were dispersed across the Roman Empire. Young men were coerced into gladiatorial combat, and others were sold into brothels or slavery. As a result, a substantial portion of the Jewish population in Judea was either expelled or displaced. Year 117. The suppression of the diaspora revolt that lasted between 115 to 117 involved a devastating campaign of ethnic cleansing that resulted in the near total annihilation and expulsion of Jews from Cyrenaica, Cyprus, and large portions of Egypt. Year 135. The Bar Kokhba revolt, that lasted between 132 to 136 CE, had catastrophic effects on the Jewish population in Judaism, resulting in massive loss of life, extensive forced displacements, and widespread enslavement, which left central Judea in a state of desolation. Some scholars describe the Roman suppression of the revolt as constituting an act of genocide. Following the revolt, Jews were expelled from the vicinity of Jerusalem and the districts of Gophna, Herodian, and Akraba. The revolt triggered significant migration of Jews from Judea to coastal cities and Galilee. Jewish captives were sold into slavery and dispersed across various parts of the empire, causing a significant influx of new slaves into the market. Year 415. After a massacre of Christians by some Jews, Jews were expelled from Alexandria under the leadership of Saint Cyril of Alexandria. Sources differ over whether all Alexandrian Jews were expelled or just the ones involved in the massacre. Year 418. Some Jews were expelled from Minorca or asked to convert. Alright, so at this point in the video, it looks like the video is getting a little bit long. We're at 11 minutes now, and I do plan on making more parts to continue this series. So if you guys would like to see the upcoming parts of this series, most likely a part 2 and 3, continuing the timeline of Jewish expulsions and exoduses, examining the history of Jews supposedly being kicked out of 109 countries, and examining all the countries they were kicked out of, press the like button and subscribe with notifications on. And that's all I wanted to say, so peace out.